Farm4Profit podcast. Take a listen, have a blast. Farm4Profit podcast. Learn about farming while having a laugh. Farm4Profit podcast.
This is Brent Diedrich with AgXplore. We're sitting here with Corey, and we're trying to pick his brain on what's going through his mind as he goes through this fall and trying to make decisions on his farm and see if there's any solutions that he wants to try for next year.
This is Zach Bingman. I believe the name of the game for all the conversations here was simplicity, and then continually stay tuned. But we talked about nitrogen management. We talked about humics and fulvics, and we ended with fungicides.
And listeners, welcome back to the Farm4Profit podcast. You got Tanner here.
Corey's here.
And Dave's in the studio as well.
Oh, Dave is here with a little bit of firepower.
It's not the tripod today?
It's the tripod today.
Okay.
What a fun, cold day to be in the studio.
Yeah, but it got hot in here a little bit ago.
I got the fan blowing in the door.
It's crazy. It can be freezing outside, but the sun is an amazing power, right? Like it can come in and greenhouse effect and just, I was sweating a little bit ago. Maybe it was a little bit of the bourbon. But I'm going to go with the sun.
The truth comes out. Listeners, we appreciate you. We always thank you for listening, and this episode is by no means anything different. So continue to share this with your family and friends. Make sure that you tell everybody out there that this is one of your favorite podcasts to listen to, and maybe why.
Yeah.
Tell them that you like listening to Corey, or you like Corey's opinion, and maybe Dave's better. But
that you learn something.
You have a little bit of fun along the path. We've been getting a couple of good text messages lately. Some really good feedback. We had one that came in asking if we would be able to go more in detail in regards to tax planning.
That would be an extremely boring show, but probably valuable.
That would be
I am guessing it'd be valuable.
But thank you so much for doing that, Corey. It's 515-207-9640 is where I've been getting those text messages. We also got a voicemail the other day that I played for you, and that was an interesting one.
Trying to think which one that was. You played like a couple voicemails for me.
That's true. The one that I was thinking of was the one that was talking about ag policy and how that affects.
And how you advocate.
Yep. How do you advocate for yourself in regards to politics? But that's one thing that we've stayed away from.
We have, and not because we're not into it, but just been a policy. That's not saying that we shouldn't or can't have a spinoff show that is ag policy, right?
Absolutely. But Dave, it's exciting. People send us guests, suggestions, farm4profitllc@gmail.com. We're going to be hitting the trade show circuit this winter. So as you think about your holiday plans and what your trade show schedule is going to be, if you want to be on, make sure you reach out and send us a message. But now it's time to get our minds out of the snow and start planning for next year's crop.
Absolutely. And we're sitting here with one of our good partners, new partners this fall, AgXplore, and we've got repeat guests, Zach and Brent, here on the podcast. And before we dive into anything of why you guys are here, let's just get the whole overview, who you are, what do you do with AgX, and go from there. Brent, you want to start?
Yeah, I'll start.
Zach's been here already, so everyone is
He's a repeat. Introduced. Brent Diedrich. I'm our Director of Sales and CRO. Been with AgX for 6 years, and my responsibility is just to oversee and support our sales staff.
Yeah, my name's Zach. Not as cool as title as Brent, but
what is your title?
There's a lot of different things that you could throw in there. We'll stick with the easy one, which is Sales Acceleration Leader, and it's not even easy. I don't even know what to explain about it. But
everything, right?
Yeah, a little bit of everything.
Debt is not always a bad thing when it comes to the ag industry, but mismanaged debt is a bad thing 100% of the time. Now, out of looking at hundreds of family farm operations over the past 5 years and looking at the financials, the number one thing that got these operations into a bad position wasn't just necessarily taking on debt, but it was mismanaging that debt or taking on bad debt, essentially, because they did not have the clarity in their finances to know whether or not they were making the right decision. This is the number one thing that people want inside this industry today, is some level of financial certainty and confidence when it comes to making those decisions. And this is what we have been doing with hundreds of family farm operations across the country over the past 5 years inside of Legacy Farmer using our software called FarmerMetrics. Now, if you want to learn more about taking your operation from a place of chaos and disorganization financially to a place of absolute confidence and clarity, so you're no longer shooting from the hip when it comes to making these massive financial decisions, and just for the first time have some level of certainty where you're going into the next year, then go to legacyfarmer.com and sign up for a free call with our team today.
Sales acceleration leader.
Yeah,
That's like what I should call Corey. He should be the guest acceleration leader, and his job is to make them go faster. What do you?
I think
Talk faster?
He's the
You can do that on Spotify. You know,
You
you
could
can
go in a lot of different
Yeah.
directions.
1x, 1.5x.
How do you say that word? Concierge.
Concierge?
You are the content concierge. That's what you are.
Say that
Could you
again.
pull
Say
up
that
a-
again, Dave. Concierge.
What's the definition, Rachel? What's the definition of concierge?
He's the guy that makes
No,
sure
no,
all the
not
partners.
that.
He's the guy that direct connects to all the partners. You're the concierge.
Dave-
You make sure things are good.
Dave? How do you spell concierge?
There's a G in there
Okay. How do you spell Corey?
with an E. With an E.
I'm excited because, like I said, we've gotten the privilege to meet these folks and had a lot of conversations. I don't know if our audience truly has gotten to meet Zach. Definitely not in the way that we have, but also just the fact that we've gotten to know more about the AgX brand. And we'll obviously talk about that a little bit in today's show, but we're more importantly considering the conversation that a lot of our listeners are going through right now as we plan for next year's crop. So that's the basis of what we're going to talk about today and kind of explore that. And Corey, I would appreciate it if you would help lead us through that.
Yep.
Because you're going through this, and Dave's also kind of following your lead and discussion at the same time. So what is your farm kind of dealing with right now, Corey?
So to go through that, I kind of need to back up and say how my farm operates a little bit and how Dave's farm operates, because he's a first-year grower. Well,
Yeah.
actually, you're planning for your second season, so no
Yes.
longer are you a first-year grower.
That's right.
So to preface that a little bit, I made Dave go all through the co-op last year, even though I have a sprayer and we cash and carry our own chemicals and things like that. I wanted Dave to get that retail experience and know why, because I wasn't going to be able to provide as much clarity as a retail agronomist would, right? So you have to go through a little bit of the pain before you can come and get the easy way with me or something
Oh,
like that.
fair
I don't
enough.
know. Maybe it's not right, but I thought you worked with a good agronomist. And so my farm, we've been cash and carry. We have sprayed all of our crops since I was coming up. That was one of the first things I did on the farm that meant more than just a 40-20, tearing down trees. It was sitting in the 7800 back in the early 2000s when aphids come in, and Dad put me in the 7800 pulling a Hardy sprayer, like 60 or 80 foot boom, and that was my first experience with it, and stay off the rows, right? So cash and carry, we like to do all of our planning, budgeting, and purchasing of all the inputs that we can, either late December or early January, depending tax-wise. And we really like to know where our costs are going to be, because we are a numbers-driven business, and we're Farm4Profit podcasts, right? So we need to know that instead of making a decision that's based off emotion in season. So that's what we're getting into. It's middle of December right now. Dad has typically done this. He is a guy that likes to sit in the office and will be in there for what seems like weeks doing all the research on this stuff. And he's stepping back from that. So it is my brother and I's opportunity to do that. I've always had a hand in it and know it well. I probably won't be as thorough as my dad was. So I would like to go through what I'm going to do and where AgXplore could insert themselves. I just don't know that we should just jump in and just start talking products, though.
No, and I don't want to do that. And I also know that there's knowledge in this room because of their backgrounds that even as you talk through what your farm is going to do, there could be places to insert themselves that isn't even a product-related piece of value.
So, Corey, to make decisions on your farm for next year, I'm looking at what we did last year and how the product was last year, and then we make decisions of how we can change. On your farm, what is something you want to change next year in your decision making?
I'm going to say it's in my decision making, and it's no specific product or placement of product or anything like that I have a goal to change. I am looking for simplicity
Okay.
And let's see. A lot of times you can go simple and maybe not as effective. I want effective and simple, right? Like,
You want all the things.
I want all of it. But us as farmers, we don't take less on our plate. It seems like we're the plumber, we're the marketer, we're the electrician, we're the grain hauler, we're everything, right? We're trying to be a jack of all trades. And what I've tried to do on our farm, and the podcast has helped me see this, is like we only have so many hours in a day.
Mm-hmm.
And our time is our most precious asset. Not the money in the bank account. That helps. You can buy time with money, but we need the time. And as the podcast pulls me this way and seed sales pull me this way and farming is my main job, is still pulling me harder because as I said, my dad's stepping back. Like,
Family's in there somewhere too, because 11 years, right?
Right, 11
Okay.
years with my wife, and my kids are wanting to go to Disney and travel and all this stuff. Like, we need time, right? So I want to surround myself with a great team of people that are smart, and I want to make things more simple. Dad, I'm not saying that you did things wrong in this aspect, but he had the time to sit there and research and pinch pennies and save. I remember in mid 2000s, we were saving $18,000 just by not buying our chemicals from the co-op, from our local retailer. And we like to work with our co-op, right? It's not to cut them out and not do business locally. It's just we're not paying for their service because we're knowledgeable. We all went to college at Iowa State University, and we have the ability to educate ourselves. So I'm not going to sit in the office and pinch pennies like that. I'm going to surround myself with a guy, like maybe price a few people and go, that's who works with me best. Maybe they're not the cheapest. They provide me the most value. Let's go. So that's what I'm looking for. Simple.
Got it.
But not cheap. Simple's not, what is it? Cheap's not cool. Cool's not cheap.
Something like
Is that what that's like? I don't know.
I'm pretty cheap.
Tanner is very cheap.
And I'm cool.
And you've come a long ways of finding that necessarily the cheapest thing isn't always the best quality of product. So there is some mixture in there of, obviously we're below cost of production in a lot of production agriculture. But going to the cheapest thing necessarily isn't.
Right.
Well,
So-
I think moving forward, back to your dad saving $18,000, we only can make so much product. So when we try to make more money, we have a couple ways to do that. Make more product, which I think we're there where we're making it. It might be reduce on the other side or become more efficient.
Right.
So that's where your dad was becoming more efficient with the things that he could control.
So, Brand, as you think about the conversation we're about to have with Corey, I want to know, what qualifies you to be able to provide the perspective. We know your story and where you have experience, and you've talked to growers across the U.S., but let our listeners know a little bit.
Yeah, so actually it's kind of cool sitting here from a manufacturing standpoint, because I spent most of my time, first dozen years of my career in ag retail.
Yep.
All the way from operations where I started before I even graduated college in a spray rig, to scouting, to starting a sales territory, to working with key accounts, and then managing as well on the grain side and on the agronomy side. So it's kind of neat from my perspective hearing this, and seeing what you guys value as well. And, as I travel across the country too, one of the big things that a lot of people are wondering and wanting to hear about is cost of production, right? ROI. We're running tight times. Commodities are down a little bit, and the best way to up your ROI on your acres is to grow more bushels, right?
Yeah.
And that's the number one thing to drive your costs down. So, but it has to make sense too. At the same point,
Yeah.
right? It has to fit within your budget. It has to make economical sense, or in your case, making it simpler. Whether it's from a retail standpoint for limiting SKU numbers, or from a farmer standpoint from an operational, to make it fast, simple, and effective.
Yeah.
So-
And I just want to preface again, I'm not trying to shit on retails. Like, the local co-op is very valuable to people. There's a lot of people that don't own a spray rig that need that agronomist.
That's not what your advice was to me.
No, it was. I told you to go with it because I wanted you to learn, right? There is a value to their service. I'm just saying, we
It's
own a
like
sprayer.
get 2 fungicides.
One of the,
right?
the best, one of the best ROIs on the farm is
2
owning,
fungicides.
is owning a sprayer, is putting in tile, is owning a grain bin. Like, there's simple things of like, okay, yes, I can easily pencil that. The banker will give me a loan for that tomorrow, right? But if you don't own one, then yes, they're very valuable. Now, don't get me wrong. I use the co-op for fertilizer. I use the co-op for grain marketing and things of that nature.
So what you've mentioned simplicity. What does that look like in a plant nutrition aspect, like for you?
Right. And so we shook things up probably in the last 5 years where we went typical Midwest farm, especially right here in central Iowa, was either a fall or spring anhydrous application of nitrogen, and they would put it all up front. Maybe, just maybe, you would get a side dress, but not normally. And it would be a dry MAP and a potash application that is either a removal or a removal plus, type application. Works, right? We know that's like the basics, right? When you're going to basketball camp, learning how to dribble and jump stop, not travel. That's the basics. But in the last 5 years, we've went to strip till. Not for the I call myself what do I call myself? Not a real strip tiller. Like the fancy strip tillers kind of
The Wish version?
put their I'm the Wish version of strip till. The fancy strip tillers put their nose up at me because I'm not doing like a dry fertilizer or a liquid fertilizer in furrow. I'm doing it for the logistics. Farming is like, to me, is a big logistics game, and I'm killing two birds with one stone. I'm putting some of my nitrogen on my base layer, and I'm making my soil, my seed bed in the soil for spring. So I'm eliminating the field cultivator and a nitrogen pass in the spring. So when I go through in the fall, ready to plant, hopefully, as long as everything goes good. So that's changed things up to where I tried some liquid in the furrow, kind of gone away from that because that's gotten to be a logistical nightmare as well. Too many things going on at once, to where we're still putting on dry fertilizer. So that's kind of how our nutrition looks like. Planter, I am doing so nitrogen wise, putting 100 to 140 units on with anhydrous. Planter, 2x2x2, I'm doing a mixture of 32 and ATS to get some sulfur and some more nitrogen, and then we do have Y drops that we're coming in, try to push that to V10, V15, a late season application of I like that pass. We really don't necessarily need those units usually, but if we know it was a wet year like this last year, we kind of know that we lost some nitrogen that we can actually call late season audible and do that.
So what is 2x2x2?
You haven't seen Tony Reed's TikTok?
I did, and I still didn't understand it.
All right, here we go. I'm going to do it for the camera here. Here's your soil surface, and your planter is coming through and planting the seed 2 to 2.5 inches deep. We're talking corn here.
Okay.
Right? So your seed's right here. But we're talking soil surface. You're 2 inches over and 2 inches down. So really, you're right next to the seed. Now, 2x2x2 would be on both sides of the seed.
Ah.
I thought Dave was a second-year farmer. Like, shouldn't you know this, Dave? Come on.
Right.
All in your first year. Dave.
Right.
All in your first year.
And so you have basically, well, there's several ways, but the two main ways that you can apply fertilizer with your planter, Dave, is you can do in furrow, which would be like on or under the seed.
Correct.
In the furrow where the seed's going right here, be right around there. We got to be really careful because there's certain different loads of salt. There's certain products that you don't want on seed because seed can be messed up. So that's where you put your high load fertilizers like nitrogen, whatever. You're getting it away from the seed, but still in that root zone.
You know how they always have seed coating? Why don't they just coat it in fertilizer?
Oh,
We can talk about that.
So on the nitrogen management side of things, Brent, what nitrogen management recommendation would you give Corey with what he's bringing to our attention here?
I mean, there's a couple of different options, knowing how Corey farms, especially in his Y drop situation or in your 2x2 as well. I mean, in your starter, I think you're doing a great job with that. We look at nitrogen, Zach called it management for a reason. I think as an industry, we've had some tools available to us that have done a great job that don't exactly manage it, and that's something we want to be very cognizant about how we talk about our technology is a way to keep that ammonium, keep that nitrate in the root zone where that plant can access it more available. So especially with you guys split applying, which is great.
Yep.
We have some products available, in our portfolio that we like to offer to people too that help keep that nitrogen there, that help with some of that loss, especially when you have those weather events in the season.
So you're talking in every application, right? I'm doing a try to do a fall. This year will be fall and spring anhydrous.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're doing some 28 or 32 UAN. And that would be with the planter and with Y drops. So you're talking both
You can, yes.
applications
Yep,
there?
absolutely can manage them both applications, especially since you're treating the unit nitrogen. On those, you can be cost effective and manage multiple passes versus traditionally treating, the soil. So you need a certain amount of product there to be effective.
Yep.
When you guys are looking at nitrogen management products, if you guys are looking for those, or if you're looking for stabilizers, either one, what sticks out to you guys that of wrong things and right things? Like what goes right when you're using these nitrogen stabilizers or management, and what goes wrong?
We have used nitrogen stabilizers. It was a while ago, right? So you can probably know what product it was, injected on an anhydrous bar. That was just a pain in the butt in itself, right? Is the injection process working? It's a very corrosive product, so you're constantly rebuilding pumps every year. Just something else, right? It's not in the tank. Simplicity. Yep. That's not simple. Mm-hmm. So that would be my downfall of my experience with it. And I think we've used some stuff in the UAN in the past. Seemed pretty easy. Just mix in there. Had no complaints over that.
So you guys talked about management. Let's talk about managing money. Corey's told me it's cheaper to put anhydrous on in the fall than to split it up. But to keep nitrogen in my soil, we're thinking of splitting it up and putting multiple passes. Any advice for a grower that is trying to be cognizant of money? Because, man, I'd like to go with what seems to be proven and a little bit more cost effective, but to go the other way.
And I need to preface
you gotta
this.
be careful with that word, too.
You probably need to slide this way for the camera.
No.
Oh, you're on that camera. Okay.
Oh.
I need to preface this as well, right? I made a recommendation of anhydrous is the cheapest form per pound of nitrogen around here, right?
Yep.
You did split it up and you had a base of anhydrous last fall, and you did some with your pre-emergence herbicide, UAN, right? So you split it up kind of, right? You didn't do any in season.
Nope.
What we found out was when Dave was disking, doing a little tillage spring in March. We got back from Commodity Classic, and he's like, I got to go do something. People are out in the field.
All the BTOs are going, Dave.
Yeah, I got to go. I got to do something. I'm like, all right, get your disc out there, whatever. We'll start, you got to scratch that itch. We found, and we were in a drought. It had not rained coming out of winter. We had a little bit of snow, not much. It was muck 4 inches down, right? I'm like, ooh. We're wet, sitting wet when it's dry. And then we had a really wet spring. And then we come to late July and we're firing. And when I'm talking firing, we're firing yellow up the plant almost to the ear leaf. And I'm like, we lost nitrogen, Dave. This ain't good. I like anhydrous, but I think our mild winter hurt us.
Yeah.
And and so it's I told Dave to go away from my typical plan because of his field that sits. I mean, that's why it's field by field basis, right? Like it's sitting in a river
Correct,
bottom.
but there's listeners in the same boat as me.
Yeah. I mean, that sat, and I think we lost nitrogen because it sat saturated.
And there are times that the nitrogen market can swing, and it could be a cheaper application window in the spring versus the fall. Or just every year is going to be different when you manage the plan, and that's key that you guys help people manage the decisions.
So is this a case? I didn't recommend a stabilizer. I recommended a management change. Is that something that I should have done, or should I have recommended a stabilizer?
So I'll speak from experience. My number one thing always is split applying. We sell the management tools, and I've seen them work, and they're phenomenal. Just like you said, it's a case-by-case basis, and every year, and I've been around a lot of stuff where guys are, put it all up in the fall or large chunks of it at one time, and it worked out great. Yeah. But as you guys know, the chemistry in the soil get very complicated, and once that nitrogen converts and is negatively charged, you can lose it, especially in a saturated situation. And that's where a nitrogen tool, like we would do, a management tool, would work. But first and foremost, I think just to mitigate your risk, I know it's another pass, and it does have a cost going across that field. But that nitrogen needs to be there when that crop needs that demand of it, and that's most importantly. You don't ever want that thing starving or having a bad day, right? So that's the number one tool, at least to do it twice, which sounds like a lot of you guys are doing anyways. And then on top of that, my next step would be to manage it with some sort of nitrogen management aid.
Right. And the naysayers would always say, well, why wouldn't I take that money and just put 10 more pounds on?
And I love that question, and and as you understand that, when you think about ammonium and positively charged being able to be held by your soils, and you guys have awesome soils here, you guys got high organic matter, darker soils, great CCs, but a lot of guys that have lighter soils that don't have those bonding sites, or their base saturations are full, where they're not able to hold that, that's where a management tool would work to hold that. But whether you put a little bit on or a lot of it, it doesn't really matter to me. You still have that chance for loss. So, in the days when it was a little bit cheaper, when those commodities were a little cheaper and you could add that extra, I still think timing is everything in these crops, whether that's nitrogen, sulfur, whatever. When that crop needs it needs to be there. And it's really hard to throw it up there and expect it to be there 2-3 months down the road and hope that plant has access to that when it needs it. So just to take that risk off the table and split apply it, that's what I see biggest benefit.
And I'm going to ask this. I think I know the question, but I want to go down to your elementary level, Dave, for some people. We put a stabilizer on a anhydrous or on a UAN. It is working because it is keeping it in a form that is not leachable.
So traditional stabilizers, whether you're talking, a nitropyrin DCD product, that is a bactericide. That is there to slow down the conversion from ammonium to nitrate. Right. So to keep that in that positively charged ammonium form where it can be held, by stopping the bacteria, killing the bacteria, and keeping it in that form longer. So that's how it traditionally works. And it does what it does, and it slows down that leaching and allows it to stay in that positive form. Ours works a little bit different. We actually have bonding sites where it allows that ammonium to attach to. Does not impede with your soil biology, actually works with your soil biology, and as it breaks down becomes a food source. But what that does is actually just create the parking space for that ammonium to hold on to. So it keeps it higher in that root zone so that plant can access it throughout the season, and just works in a different way. So it's just a different way of thinking about it. Again, those tools have worked for us for many, many years, have been a great option. This is just a different way to think about managing.
So then does your product need to be able to park on the soil?
No, so it's its own. Yeah, the polymer itself that works within this product actually holds on to the ammonium, and actually it's negatively charged and has some sites as well that can hold on and slows down that nitrate as well.
So you're not changing the form or holding the form.
No, not stopping the conversion at all.
But the other stuff that is holding the form, it's still in a form that the plant can use.
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So just different process.
Okay.
So, Brent, what makes our nitrogen management portfolio so unique in as far as our technologies in it?
So the XN technology, which is ours, which is what I'm talking about on the creating those sites. The other cool thing from an operational standpoint, you had mentioned the corrosiveness and the smell and some of those things that come along with some of those products. This is kind of unique that you do treat the unit of nitrogen, so again, cost effective. Doesn't have those qualities along with them. They're very they're soil friendly and equipment friendly. So your pumps, your seals, your equipment, those are great. And like I said, it allows you to manage the crop all the way through. I don't believe in a silver bullet or one single product that's going to turn around and change the world. It's about managing a crop from start to finish. And this is just one of those tools along the way that we need to be doing.
And correct me if I'm wrong. We say it corrodes as much as water, right?
Yes. Yep. It's no placard on. It's not corrosive at all.
Man, you sounded like an attorney there. You were like asking the man on the witness stand. Like,
I know, it really put me in pressure.
Is this really the right answer? Like,
where were you on December 3rd?
I'm not signing anything.
I've got the questions. I don't have the answers. You know what I mean?
What product is this called?
So on like in your urea or your UAN, it'd be like a contain advanced. So that'd be above and below ground protection. So we'll have that MBPT for above ground for volatility protection, which is an industry standard. And the XN, the below ground, is what's unique to us, to AgX. We also have a product there for Enzone GL for anhydrous for gas and liquid. That's what.
And that would just go in the anhydrous tank.
So you can do it either way. So it's kind of cool. You can do it just like you would a traditional, and you put it inside the tank. Or if you have a Sidekick Raven system or something on your toolbar, where it doesn't ever have to touch it, you can absolutely do that as well.
But you just won't have to rebuild the pump.
Correct.
all
Yep,
the time.
absolutely. Yeah. So guys that own their own equipment really appreciate that, obviously, especially when it's yours, right?
Yeah.
And you're not renting it out.
I mean, we took the dang thing off
Yeah.
because we didn't want to be tempted to use it anymore.
Yeah.
Because it was such a pain in the butt.
Yeah. Yep.
So
Made me choke on that, Eric.
Yeah.
Not to derail us at all, tell me if we're going off base. You said that
going off pace.
bacteria can sometimes hinder that stabilizer product, but some people are putting microbiologics and bacteria on the field. Is it, being a pharmacist here, is using two drugs together bad? I mean, if we're using microbiologics and we're using a stabilizer, is that bad together?
So that's a great question. That's where you got to be very cautious. That's why I really like our product on that. It is soil biology friendly. It is microbe friendly. Some other products, especially these guys that are invested into biology and microorganisms, things like that, put it in there. You got to be careful putting some pesticides out there because you can counteract that, right?
Okay.
So you're spending money on one thing and you turn around and
Yeah.
I know what you're trying to do on the nitrogen side, but it can actually impede on some of his money you've spent as well and kill some things you probably don't want to.
and that was the other reason like we took that off. Is like we're talking about all these microbiologicals
Yeah.
and all that. Like, why would we put something that is negative against them?
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I think it comes down to education. And no, I don't think anybody does it on purpose.
Told you
right?
that
No one wants to
wasn't
spend money
that
and then
far down the rails.
kill
That
it.
was
But
Oh no, I just
spot on the money.
It didn't matter what you said. I was
Garage
gonna-
right there.
Well, it didn't matter where you parked your car. I was telling you were off the rails.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
Since that makes sense. So we kind of covered your tillage application in the fall, and that you do strip till, and that you apply your anhydrous with your strip till bar. Your goal is to be able to come in and plant on those strips right away in the spring.
Yep.
And we do know that your nitrogen is split applied, and it's a fairly fluid decision that your farm makes.
Yep.
Thank you for telling Dave what 2x2x2 was. So we all are on the same page there.
It's 8, I think.
2x2x2?
2 times 2 times 2.
Oh.
That's the science equation.
Oh
Yeah.
my God.
It's math.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Tell us, Corey. Tell us more about your planter then.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I would like to go. What I kind of want to do, and I wrote this down, is I want to go through a typical Midwest farm, and then what I do, and I would like to know where AgX can insert itself. So actually, sometimes before the planter would roll, maybe after, is actually pre-emergent herbicide.
Mhm.
So we talked about.
We're not going to talk about seed decisions because clearly you only buy seed from Big Creek Seed.
Well, not after this morning's meeting. That is not the case. No.
Did they not buy your breakfast? Is that what this is?
No.
Okay.
Anyway, so yes, let's go before the planter. Say we're going out there putting some
Did they not get you a hat?
Yeah.
pre-emergent herbicides down. Is there something that we should be doing? I've seen a lot of things like with humics or some nutritionals along with the ride. Is that something where AgX could help?
Absolutely, we have options for that. To be honest, on the most part, on our organic acids, on humics and fulvics, maybe in that next step we'll talk about, do a lot more in furrow when we're doing it. Talk about our starters. On our pre-emerge side, we always talk about it in 5 phases that we talk about. So foundation.
Or maybe it would be a burn down.
it could be a burn down.
I should say burn down too. There's a lot of no tillers, and we actually have gotten into that on the strip till side, throwing in some 2,4-D or whatever because we're not getting rid of the early weeds with tillage. So
Yeah.
that can be.
No, and you're never going to hurt throwing a humic or fulvic out there, especially when it comes down to any sort of
And
herbicide application.
why is that? What does humic and fulvic do?
Yeah, so organic acids, right? Carbon sources.
Okay.
So plants' natural backbone is a carbon, right? So it takes it up. So it helps drive that chemistry you're trying to do. Helps metabolize quicker, drive it in that plant, and get a better kill to it.
Yeah.
Same thing we use it in foliars, right? Just drive that whatever NPK micro package we're trying to do is get it in that plant as soon as possible, get it in there metabolizing, and get it up to the growing points and working where we want it to. So it's the same thing even when we talk about for weed kill. I think it's probably a really important thing. It's probably been a big topic as I've traveled too, is weed pressure, right?
Yeah.
And I think that comes down to guys understanding when I think about a pre-emerge or when I think about herbicide application, first thing that comes to mind is adjuvants, water pH, coverage, all that stuff's very, very important. And just like anything else, you want to start with a blank slate, right? You want to start with get rid of the weeds, get it going, and start a great bed and start for your crop. So.
Yep.
Before we get too much further, Brent, you teased it a little bit. What is 5 phases?
So we kind of look AgX. We kind of look at 5 phases. Talked about managing a crop from start to finish. So we have our foundation phase, and we always kind of think of that one as our combine to planter. So what we're doing, as soon as we leave the combine the last year, and that's fall burn down, that's fall fertilizer, that's residue management, those things. Then we come right up into our establishment phase. We'll go into our architect phase. We go into our reproductive, and we go into our maturity phase. So that's the establishment would be from a seedling coming right out of the ground, how we manage it and get a good start with it. Architecture would be the vegetative stage with the herbicide pass and being able to manipulate yield at that time in a crop. Obviously, reproductive, you guys know, is going through reproductive time frame and how we can protect that crop and preserve as much yield as we can. And maturity would be that last stage, trying to bring it home.
Are you ready to power through your harvest? Meet the Maya corn heads. They're designed for maximum efficiency and unmatched durability in the toughest of conditions.
With precision engineering and advanced features, Maya corn heads ensures every kernel counts, giving you the performance and reliability that you need. Get more from your harvest with equipment built to last.
Reach out to your local Maya corn heads dealer or visit mayacornheads.com to find your perfect match today. Maya corn heads, harvest with confidence.
Corey, for guys that are like me that don't have liquid on a planter, at what point do we do this?
We're going to get into that. We're going to get into that. I mean, is that everything on the pre-emergent burn down side?
Well, to an extent, the question we ask everybody, especially when we start going down the 5 phases rabbit hole, is when do you guys believe the next season starts? And this is not rhetorical. I want you guys to answer that.
It's right now. I mean, as soon as you make an input purchase for the next season is when the season starts. Growing season, like physiologically growing a plant, goes when soils warm up and you're actually doing applications for 2025. It might be March, it might be April.
Yep. See, I think I was making decisions when we realized that we were losing nitrogen last year. When we realized that, I was already trying to take corrective actions of how do we fix that, from drain tile to do we do different decisions for anhydrous, so the decision-making process for 2025 actually started for me before we even harvested the blooming corn.
Yeah, 100%.
Yep.
I mean,
Yes.
we made input purchases
we were
for
already,
next year before the combine.
We'd already
enrolled.
started talking seed
Yeah.
decisions and
That's our belief, is that when the combine hits the field, that's next season right there.
What do we call that? Accrual?
Technically accrual.
We're accrual agronomy.
Accrual agronomy.
Yeah, this is 25, but we're still dealing with 24 over here.
Yeah.
Yep. And you can deal with 26, and I mean, you can go as far as, I mean, it's all about management. So now this is going to get really drawn out if we don't stay pointed. So planter, a lot of planters do not have a liquid infra or 2x2x2 or 2x2 system. So let's talk just a bare planter. We're planting seeds. Is there something that AgXplore can help me with just planting my seeds?
There is, and if we get into the planter thing, there's a lot of questions I'd ask you, which way I'd guide you. But we do have a really unique product with the GrowPack AI, which would be our planter box treatment. So it's the only dry product that we carry, and that's a great option. Dave, thinking about guys for soybeans that don't have starter on it, or corn, or wheat, or anything else that maybe guys don't want to slow down logistically for, that don't have don't have starter or don't want to place it on there. This will be a great option. It is a clay and talc-based product, so it's great for lubrication. A lot of guys are already doing it anyways. We're using some sort of E-flow or talc or graphite blend. So it does that. It accomplishes that piece of it. But it also has a micronutrient package to it and some technology with it as well. So agronomically, not only are you getting that benefit, but you're also getting a lubrication.
Technology? So how much technology can you put in a powder?
It is funny. You get quite a bit in there. So we have, in this product, we have a micronutrient package that supports that small seedling. It's not enough to fix any deficiency by any stretch. It's just there to get that seedling up and going. But the cool thing is it does have bradyrhizobia in there, so for the inoculant piece. It does have mycorrhizae in there, and it has trichoderma in there. Then on our technology side, we actually have what we call our inception and intake, which would be like a mobility product in there. So once that plant takes it up, it can help it mobilize inside of it quicker, and also has a carbon source in there as well. So it's kind of a catch-all, very effective product for the grower to use, very simple to use. You don't need any special equipment for it. And again, you just treat it like you would if anybody else was putting any graphite or talc on there.
You got to put graphite or talc on your seed, right? And
anyways,
flowability.
Yep.
A lot of guys do an 80-20 blend or whatever, and so this is just something that you're putting it on there. You might as well have some goodies.
And I'm probably the anomaly there because I bet you 90% of our listeners / growers, they're as big or bigger in equipment than you.
Yeah, I would say so.
They're probably going to have so now you go Corey's way, then you're putting it 2x2x2. Is there something else that Corey can do?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
But so I you know,
Get out the checkbook.
But when I have those,
Oh yeah.
when I have those conversations, those are things I'd want to know about Corey specifically. I always ask would be, what is your CEC? What do your pHs look like? Some of the practices he's already used, and he shared some of it with us for make the best recommendation. Kind of understand your soils. We have a couple of products that fit very well in that in-furrow or in that 2x2 situation. So I'd like to know a little bit more about, that situation, particularly to make a recommendation.
And I have in-furrow on my planter. Haven't used it the last 2 years because it's not simple. And I chose to put my eggs into the 2x2 basket, right? I felt like I got more value. It was easier. I knew how many units of nitrogen. I was getting my sulfur. Felt like even when I was using some starters in furrow, that if I had a deficiency, it was always sulfur visually in the plant, right? Yep. So I decided, and what we were doing before I did the 2x2 was we were doing most of our sulfur with our side dress application. Well, we pushed that too late into the season. We weren't getting it in time.
Yep.
And so
that is the only way to get that too if you're trying to push that sulfur. So
right.
Yeah.
And
good.
So for people listening, we've talked about this a little bit before in the past too, but sulfur is not naturally there anymore, or just because of the sulfur acid rain, right?
Hashtag bring back acid rain.
I was just
I
was getting ready to make all kinds of jokes. I was like, I don't need to be blasted over the internet.
Freaking
for that.
deaf.
Yeah. Deaf?
Are you deaf?
Diesel exhaust fluid?
Oh, yeah, okay. I didn't know if you meant like death.
Are you deaf?
Where is this going?
Not DEAF.
That's what I said. Are you deaf? Did you not hear the man?
All right. So what kind of product? Are we talking nutritionals? Are we talking something that's going to help things stick around? Are we talking biologicals? What are we looking at?
So most of the things we have are going to be additives to what you're already doing with your starter. Most of our things are technology driven. So, like in that 2x2 situation for you, we have a product I would recommend called Upward, which is kind of cool. It's a blend of, again, humic and fulvic acid. So you get that multiple different benefits for that. Feed soil biology. You get those CEC bonding sites for your positive ions. You get the hydrophilic, so it helps draw moisture and pull up nutrients in the soil. We have some sugar and carbon sources in that product to help feed that again, help that system. And then we actually have another product in there that mixes in there, which is called Prevent XT, which is just a phosphorus solubilizing product. So again, not knowing your pHs, but a lot of guys have problems with pHs or phosphorus tie-up. A lot of guys have a lot of phosphorus in their soils that they just can't access, right? They're again, talk about managing your bottom line on your farm. A lot of you guys have stuff that there are products out there that help release that, or at least protect that from tie-up, depending on your pH and things. So what that does is keep that available for that plant to be able to access it in hydrogen form.
So I feel like myself, you, I'm in Illinois, and you're in Ohio. Big Upward, but what about adrenaline?
So that would be, and I would recommend that product if you had it on seed. That's built a little bit different, technology directly driven if you're going to put it on seed.
So that's like a seed treatment or like an
No,
in-furrow?
it'd be on seed herbicide, like in furrow.
Okay.
Yeah, if you're going directly on seed. So again, the benefit on a 2x2, and especially what you're doing with the mixture you have, I would recommend that Upward product. With those sites, the on seed piece is more of a vitamin package directly if you're using a low salt starter ortho product. That's where that benefit is on that.
What does date night with you look like? Like hemophobic? What was that word? Hemophobic?
I don't even know.
Okay,
I was going to ask you.
Are you wanting to know? Are you trying to ask him?
Not at all. But I can't imagine somebody sitting there like, wow, this guy knows a lot.
I mean, stuff up. I don't know.
I was going to say, when the big words come out, it's you say them confidently enough, everybody's going to.
Gunny's good at that.
Well, I hope nobody questioned it.
Everybody's good at it.
Gunny says things that I can't even pronounce.
Is that in the dictionary?
Right. How do you spell that?
And then he comes back and he says, yeah, it's like taking your cart back to the cart corral at Walmart, because it's really important to make sure that it's always in the right place at the right time. You're why didn't you say that to begin with?
Yeah.
Right. It's like the first word we started out with was simplicity. Why didn't you start with that, Gunny?
So a couple things in common that I've heard is this humic and fulvic we always need a food source,
Yeah.
right? And I will say we have moved to that of always having a quart or two of a humic source with our 2x2x2,
Awesome.
with our Y drops, just to have that. We
Good.
felt like we've seen consistent results with that. We are a big data-driven farm. Like I said at lunch today, that we have a third-party company that sets up all of our trials, and we throw a lot of trials in on them and make their life a living hell. But analyze, like, they don't have a skin in the game of, I don't care
Whose
if this
product you
product
choose. Yeah.
works or doesn't. And when you can take the emotion out of that decision, and you can see this works 4 out of 5 times, this ROI is 3.4 times to 1, because that is one thing I also want to, the stigma in ag of fungicide. Well, that's an ROI. It paid for itself. No, that cost you money if it just paid for itself, right? Because no one's valuing their dang time and the application to go do it. That thing needs to at least be 2, if not 3x of what you paid for that product as a farmer. Like I said in the beginning, I need it simple, and my time is worth more than ever.
Yep.
If I'm just doing this to pay myself back, that you're losing money.
Yep.
You're losing money, right? So, all right. In-furrow and 2x2, that's what we got for that. Our next thing that we would do is a post-emergence pass on corn or beans, right? So we all need to go spray some herbicide unless you're organic. Obviously, that's a trip across the field. Are we doing something there? Is there something that can help our herbicides? And then is there nutritional or technology? I hear technology, I think of like little like computer chips and this stuff. But.
Right, drone.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that goes to the, what we're really proud of at AgX is the reasons why products. So at that time frame, we talk about corn, for example, right? We all know during that V3 to V5 time frame, that's when ovule development's happening, right? You can actually affect yield at that point. You can trick that plant and think it's the healthiest plant in the world. If you can add another 2 kernels on that ear, potentially, to fill that out, that's where your yield comes from. So at that time, we're very specific on a corn crop that we want that application at V3, V5 time frame. From a nutritional standpoint and from a plant growth regulator, PGR standpoint as well, where you can influence that and get that plant up and going. And especially when you're spraying herbicide, you know that plant has to express its genes, right? It can slow it down, stall it out. It still has to metabolize that chemistry at that point too. So anything to help that thing get up and going, help that thing flush that through, get a better weed kill, and keep that crop moving, there's a great opportunity at that point to influence yield. There's only a few times I feel like in a crop, understanding like what's going on during specific crop times, you can really influence yield. You can never go backwards. So you got to capture and got to take advantage of those times when you can, and that's one of them, I feel like, in a corn crop. And soybeans the same way. You're going across that field, and those things stun out and stall out, and that's an option and a way that you can get that thing moving and keep it going as well.
So I got to throw you the softball here because your agronomist avoided it too. You're talking about stress on the plants and nutritionals and all that, but like you guys have in your portfolio things that help herbicides work better, that are every farmer, every agronomist knows that we need a crop oil or we need an MSO or we need this or that, like, right? So just talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, it's funny, especially coming on the retail side. Poor chemistry guys sometimes got, always the blame on it. And a lot of times when you did the research, those certain herbicides, they're calling for an oil, a heavy AMS load, whatever it is. And then your water, your pH in your water makes a big difference. Those are there to help performance. You're going out there, spending a lot of money on chemistries. You really need to look at investing, making sure you're using the right herbicide, whether that's an oil, into a plant, you got oil loving or water loving pathways, depending what that chemistry is trying to do. Those are designed for helping that chemistry get in there and helping getting that active in there and doing its job. So I know it's not super sexy to sit here and talk about adjuvants and surfactants. They're super necessary, and they do a great job. And the guys that use it and are using it to the label, that's where we see better performance. And we all know there's a lot of resistance out there. We've had a lot of hard times killing some weeds.
What's that mean? Using it to the label?
So every, different herbicides, fungicides, insecticides call for different. I always tell people make sure you read your label.
Okay.
There's so many generics out there, so many different actives.
You would have done
percentages
this, Dave.
and
with your fungicide, you would have double applied. Your applicator would have
I hired people to do it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, but depending on what you're spraying, reading the label on what it calls for. Some, again, are for the crop oil. Some are MSO. Some are AMS, whatever that is, NISs. They require certain actives of a surfactant to perform at the best level.
So you had a bunch of college kids come out. Do you think you do a better job doing it yourself than
a bunch of college kids?
Yeah.
College kids what?
that came out and sprayed?
For your fungicide or for your herbicide?
Both.
Did you have them hand spray?
No.
Well, I'm going to say, even though
I'm just saying, if it's attention to detail, yeah.
Even though the college kid was maybe doing the application, or the younger guy,
somebody else did
the co-op is usually doing a
Fair
program, right? That has, and they have to have their commercial pesticides applicators license. They have to read the labels. It's a big deal. You have to stay on label. You cannot go double apply a herbicide because there's only so much that you can put on.
Fair enough.
At one time and through the season.
Yeah.
So when you go through your applicator's license, you learn all that. The bigger deal is, you mentioned it earlier, is weeds and the pressures that are increasing and the resistance that is increasing to weeds that we cannot kill. And so a lot of this is driven by what did you have packaged. Like the chemistry can only go so far, but if it can't get into the plant right, because if your pH of your water is wrong, if it didn't burn through the leaf cuticle like it should, and I'm going to tell you what, from the seed industry, we don't have a new technology coming for 7 or 8 years, so we're stuck with Enlist, and if you still do dicamba, and then you got drift issues there, so we're stuck here, so we better start getting some effectiveness right now.
And especially, there's a lot of especially if you're going to spray your own stuff, and you guys know what you want to spray. Not all chemistries are built the same, right? Some of the generics, they don't have quite the surfactant load in there, and you can really help those out by adding a surfactant. So I think it's just important. And we battle pigweed now at this point. We've had ragweed and mare's tail issues throughout the years, and it's just something we don't want to battle, like you said, the next 7 years.
That water hemp up here is getting ridiculous. And what's the big one? It's pigweed. It's a pigweed, but that's coming up. Why am I drawing a blank on it now?
I don't know.
There's kochia and all that kind of stuff too. But yeah, it's nasty stuff. And there's nothing more frustrating than when you sprayed something and it doesn't die.
Yeah. You gotta do it again.
And it might not even work.
No, you might be just stunting it.
Right. Okay. So jumping on now, we did our post-emergence herbicide. Now we're probably looking at, on the corn side, of a side dress application. So usually we're looking at nitrogen. Last year I actually did some potassium because I missed a couple dry applications because it got so dang wet. I was planning to do early, and so what are we looking at there? I'm guessing humic and fulvic again.
What time frame are you talking about?
So our farm would be V10 to V15, but I would say people would start side dressing with a normal side dress Coulter bar right around the time of herbicide or right after, right?
Yeah, usually enough pretty early.
Yeah.
And then at that point, same thing. That's a great time to address your sulfur needs. That's a great time to add organic acid in there on the side dress piece of it, and then obviously you can manage that pass as well.
Yeah.
As we get later in the season, we're looking at that. If you guys are running your Y drops, again, can manage that piece of it. Sulfur, boron, those are obviously very tough elements to hold in the soil. They're negatively charged. The soil struggles to hold those. Anytime you get it rain, you have a chance of losing that. So there's a couple elements, sulfur, boron, potassium as well, that are just really efficient to do foliar. And those are some time frames going into that reproductive time frame that we see a big benefit with.
That's corn and soybeans. What about wheat, canola?
I said typical corn and soybean.
I know. I'm
Midwest
just
farm.
curious. Do they do products like that?
They have
do.
A lot of products.
Yeah, we do. So, we get canola as we go up north in our territory quite a bit. And then wheat, obviously quite a bit across the country. We do some in Ohio and stuff like that. But, along the same lines, understand those demand curves of those nutrients. But sulfur is huge on wheat, for example. Sulfur and nitrogen split applying, and then potassium, boron late season to fill out those grain, help with that test weight. Huge opportunity. Fungicides as well, obviously.
Do you think that every in-season nitrogen application should have some sulfur?
Depending on somebody's program.
Because don't they kind of go hand in hand a little bit?
They do. So you need that ratio, right, to metabolize. And that's where I usually like to ask somebody about their program. But normally, yes, if you're split applying, you could really benefit from small amounts every time you're going across that field, honestly. You at least need the ratio. You probably need a 10-to-1 ratio at the minimum. So, yes. We always like to tell people you don't always have to spend more money on your sulfur. You can take that money, reallocate that, and just spread it out, and we've seen better benefit. So you don't always got to add another product to the mix. So if you're ATS, for example, I have no idea how much ATS you run at one time, but if you pulled $5 out of application and just added it in a foliar application, or add it next time you go across at Y drops, I see a bigger benefit from managing it multiple passes than I do on one big chunk. So you don't have to spend more money, just different management practices.
Right. I would agree.
Yeah.
And that's why we're splitting it up.
Which is awesome.
Like,
Yeah.
You know, so I didn't even say it at the beginning. I've even started playing around with AMS as a dry product before planting.
There's some guys that run them before soybeans, and 100, 150 pounds of AMS in front of soybeans on dry. See a big benefit to that.
Yeah.
We forget about soybeans and you sulfur too.
Soybeans
We
need
forget about that a
nitrogen
lot.
too. They only produce about 60% of their nitrogen that they actually need from nodulation.
Yep.
Well, some of the biggest benefits that we've seen from applying manure is that ahead of soybeans. Like you can see it to the line in the field to where it's applied or not, and it's a difference.
Yeah.
I love the manure play on. So you're talking cattle, I'm assuming.
On both sides.
I'm talking hogs. I like to put it in front of corn, right? Get some nitrogen and the micros and P and K sulfur, but then I don't have to apply because I got such a heavy load on the next year for beans, and my beans behind that is.
Betting that next year too, as stuff starts breaking down,
Yeah,
becoming
because
available.
it's not all available the first year.
Yeah.
You know, so that's been our go-to for our manure acres, but obviously not everyone has manure. I wish I could have it on every acre, but that's the good stuff. So, all right, we just side dressed. Now we're kind of sitting around. I mean, you could go do a nutritional, but most farms would probably be looking at a fungicide, insecticide on corn, maybe just fungicide, and then a couple weeks later, maybe some fungicide, insecticide on soybeans. So where do you fall in helping there?
So big believer in fungicides. Don't sell them. Have sold them in the past, obviously. Just seen them work. Big plant health person. Keep that thing going. Insecticides as well when they're needed. From our standpoint in our portfolio, we would have our late season PGR. So we have a late season PGR that's designed specifically for that reproductive time frame, and we like to pair that with that's onward max, but we like to pair that with our fungicide pass directly at that timing. When that, it always turns off hot and dry. It always becomes very stressful during reproductive time frame. We start aborting pods. We start, plant stressing out, producing stress hormones, and it just starts going into protective mode. So anything we do to drive that stress down and keep that plant producing and shoving all that, we work so hard all year to produce that crop, to take all those nutrients and start shoving it in the grain so we can, maximize that benefit. That's what we usually like to do at that time frame.
Yep. Seems like there can be a lot of stress there, and sometimes we get a benefit out of fungicide even though there's not a disease presence, it seems like. And I think it's a stress thing. Would it not be that?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I believe in that. Again, there's so much going on at that time frame. There's a lot of plant health benefits of that, even when there isn't disease present.
Do you know what PGR is, Dave?
I
Not-
don't.
not
I know
the
we talked about it
PBR,
last time.
not
but I
the
know what
bar down
fungicide
in
is.
Louisville.
It's a good beer.
Yeah.
No.
Where you ride the bull? Yeah.
I would like to do. I don't even want to dive into PGRs today. I want to do a show on PGRs this coming, because I feel like that word gets thrown around a lot. I think we said this last time we were together, Zach. And there's some that do completely separate things. And so
I think you're right. I think
yeah.
they get lumped in together, and they're hormones that do completely different
For the
things.
generic farmer that's
Yep.
just trying to be simple, like myself out there. I'm not trying to be NCGA. I would like to dive into that sometime.
Yep.
Because I'm not doubting that there's a value. I just want to understand it.
Yeah.
So, and where it could work on the
Are you
farm.
saying your Walmart brand? Like, what are we
Wish.
getting at?
Wish,
yeah.
Wish.
Yeah.
Wish. Okay.
Okay, I'm trying to do things simple. Like, look, I love the high yield guys. Like, it's cool. We learn a lot from them, but also it's not practical when you're trying to do things simply and grow farms under cost of production, or grow crops under cost of production on thousands of acres.
So what you're saying is stay tuned for the PGR?
Yes.
Okay.
Because we would never be done. We would not be
It's
done
a
today.
big topic.
We would not be done today, and I have a sneaking suspicion Gunny would need to be here for that
Yes,
as well.
yeah,
So,
like that.
all right. So we got that late season nutritionals. Going back to the high yield guys, they all would. I've heard them say.
Going back to the
Look,
Helobo
look,
farms,
I
right?
just yeah. Helobo farms. Once I do fungicide, I'm done. Like, I'm done for the year.
Yeah.
I've sat in the sprayer long enough. But the high yield guys go, no, you got to do another pass or two.
Yeah. There are some bushels that you can maximize it and capitalize on. It is really hard. Everybody's burnt out and tired and they don't want to make that extra pass. Seen a lot. We've worked with soybeans over the last few years and making that R4 to R5 guys willing to do that. On a nutritional side, you can really pack on some test weight and add some weight, and that's what we get paid on, right? Is we haul weight. So potassium and boron are two big ones there. Sulfur as well, but if you can add some potassium, add some weight inside that fill those soybeans or corn kernels out, you can add some test weight and add some bushels to your bottom line. We've been playing with that for the last few years and seen tremendous results. It's just getting somebody to go across there, right?
Yeah.
So
it does seem like if I could go back 10 years, it was so much driven by how many kernels are on that ear of corn, right? We need to have plants and we need to have ears and consistency and kernels is what we're talking about. I've gotten some some of my best yields on stuff that if you kernel counted, it was like, it's going to be average.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it's 50 bushels over that. Well, and then you look at the depth of the kernel and all that. Like, we had the right end of the season between rainfall, products that were out there, mineralization. So I do think there's a spot for that late season nutrition to really pack the pounds on, get some test weight out there. So, yeah, I would agree.
So how many passes you made now? 5?
Well,
You
your
said simple. You said simple.
Post-emergence, side dress, fungicide is my 4.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right? 4 with a sprayer, right? And if you want to count planting, I
And
guess.
strip till.
And
Yeah,
strip till.
I mean-
So 6.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. You don't even want to start getting into how many products we spray during bean application. My God, the tender sprayer.
Well, I
is
think if we
full.
wanted to make this podcast last longer, we start the test weight debate. But we'll save that for the PGR conversation and just make that like a 4-hour Rogan-esque.
Right. So,
podcast.
yes, I think we did a good job of not really diving into just products. I just wanted to go through where you guys could insert yourself on my farm because I'm coming into a decision season, a purchasing season of what I'm going to do on my farm for next year. So thank you for doing that. I think AgXplore is going to be a tremendous partner and value because I think you would tell me when I don't need a product.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Right? Like you don't just want to sell me a product. Anyone can do that. Like I said, I need partners.
Yeah.
To make my life simpler.
Yep.
It's not necessarily I need to use simpler products or what. I just need someone to help me out.
Yep. That's what we're here for. We're here for solution-based, selling. It's different for everybody. It fits in your system.
Cool. Do you want to highlight at all what we're going to be looking at with these guys in 25 to look forward to, or just
Yeah, we get to go to Commodity Classic. First big feature in 2025 is going to be the Commodity Classic event. We get to go have a lot of fun in Denver. It should be absolutely miserable outside, so why not come in and hang out with us inside?
Yep.
As far as that goes, that's there at the first part of March, but the content only starts from there. Really great experts. The fun part will be is if you come to the booth, not only are we going to do interviews, but us being there to do interviews means that their team of experts is going to be there. So selfishly come and ask them the questions. Tell them how your planter is set up. Tell them what your soils are like. Come in and hang out at the booth there. But then we get into the growing season, and it'll be fun to put their products to work because our intent with this partnership is we're using it right alongside you as a listener. This isn't a new partnership to us. This is a relationship that's been built for quite a while. We dated here we were in the dating stage. For a while before jumping into this relationship.
Are we engaged or married now?
I don't know. We
on the fourth base.
Actually, I think the way the cool kids say it is we were just talking. We were in the talking stage. Now we're dating. Yep.
They're moving in.
Yeah. We gotta wait. And no movies and blankets in the basement. You cannot have any blankets in the basement. Anybody else's parents say that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mine was don't shut the door.
I don't believe Dave had a girl over at the house to have blankets in the basement.
Yeah, no faith.
So-
You only knew. You
So
only
commodity, right?
If I only knew.
Commodities, the kickoff of really great access to experts, to people that are fluent and understand what's going on, as well as growers that have experience with the products. And then during the growing season, being able to hang out with almost our own private agronomy team. It's going to be neat. We got to hang out and meet the Iowa reps. as well as, we've pretty much been introduced to half the staff. And I expect by the end of Commodity Classic, we're going to know almost everybody in AgX. So we could probably run it, Corey, run the business ourselves.
You guys might as well. Well, and we're going to have drones there. We're going to have our director of agronomy, CEO, VP, you name it. We want all the experts there. That way we can be challenged on questions and be able to answer them.
That's the goal. We want to provide the challenging type questioning. Today it was you as the attorney in the witness stand, but ultimately the position of putting that together. And then when we get to harvest, right, we've got Mr. Third Party Analytics here. We hope to be able to provide clarity on results. Every growing year is going to be different. We've got Dave's soils that are different than Corey's soils that are different than our family's farm and our soils. So it'll be a big full-on approach of they aren't going away. We're going to make sure that we get the quality information to put it all out together. So looking forward to it. It's the first time we've done anything like this with a partner, full season. Let's come in and put some experts at the disposal of our listeners. And that's the point. If you've got a question, they're your team too. Through us, that's why they're here. So reach out to us or reach out to them and let them know that you're curious.
Yep. I'm just excited because I've said this in other shows and back channels of talking with Zach, but I sold proprietary products and nutritional products in 2010 for a competing company, and these guys were a huge thorn in my side then, right? So they've been around, and I think that gives so much validity. It's not one of these companies that have just popped up over the last 5 years. You see that web chart of people in this space, and it's a lot. It's a lot. So I love that you guys have the boring adjuvants to go along with the cool technology, right? So I'm excited. I think it's going to be pretty cool. Got a cool story to tell.
You guys have had our sign up behind you quite a bit, and I'm sure there's a lot of people that have wondered what that sign is. So to maybe a couple questions here. One, what are you guys looking forward to on partnering with us? Like, I would hope to get all three of your guys' answers.
I want to figure out what the damn X is for, because I think it should be like X marks the spot, and I sound totally like Dave right now. X marks the spot. This is where the buried treasure is. This is the magic bullet. I know we're not going to find that, but how cool would that be to be able to have enough conversations and provide enough perspective that it's referred to as a place to go to get your answer. We're not saying X marks the spot is one product. We're saying X marks the spot as in here's someone that's going to help you find your solution. So I
like it.
I'm curious more about the story side. Now, I don't get to play on the agronomic side as much as these two do. I don't make those decisions. For me, it's more about what is the company all about. And we get little bits and bits every time we chat with you guys. So to me, that's my answer.
You've never been able to find that spot, have you?
No, I was not allowed to have blankets.
I'll let Dave go. Or do you want me to go?
I had 6.5 dozen. I was hoping to learn by the end what all this technology is, because we keep using the word technology. Well, there's technology in this, okay? And every time I want to ask the question, well, stop, hold on. What does it do? What does it do? And tell me why it's good. So hopefully through the process of the partnership, we can answer that for all the listeners, is not just another product, but, hey, there's technology in it. I keep hearing this word. That's great.
Yeah.
Does the technology make me money? We're Farm4Profit. I need to be profitable, so I want to correlate the profit to the technology.
Are you also saying stay tuned?
Stay tuned.
Okay.
I'm excited to bring you guys the people. Everyone that we've talked to and your even your employees of like why AgX, why AgXplore, and it's the people. And we saw that when we came down to Missouri and met with you guys. It's the relationship. Talking earlier, people buy from people, right? Everyone's probably got a good product here or there. I just love the relationship that we've established already, and that we're going to develop going through the next year and hopefully years to come. So
we need to get a dog together to see how everybody.
Have you stated a VRBO with Corey yet?
maybe a cat.
Maybe not.
No, if you want a cat, this relationship's over.
I don't want a cat, but they're easy to take care of. You know?
And also on top of that,
Is
I'm
it an
excited
outdoor cat?
for the education.
Yeah.
So it's not just about push. It's about why, and I'm excited for that. So,
That's good. Well, listeners, we appreciate you hanging out with us. This is our sneak peek into things that Corey, because he knows everything, is
Clearly, if you listen to that episode, you don't know that. Or you know.
it was our take on what is going through his mind right now as he's thinking about making decisions for the next crop year, and what better for us to be able to share this opportunity with a new partner. So hopefully you're able to grab some keywords or some conversations that you can have with the experts in your team, or if you don't have those experts, you understand that we may have introduced you to a couple that would be able to provide you some answers or point you in the right direction. So
This is episode 1 of Tailgate Talks with Corey.
Tailgate talks.
Oh, great. We need a tailgate for you to sit on. We need to get an old Ford tailgate.
Oh, man, right there.
Yeah,
Right down off the wall.
just plop it right down there. Good. So, time to wrap it up.
Let's do it.
All right, listeners, until next time, have a good one.